Hello and welcome to Coffee and Christ. I'm your host, Sean Talent, and this is my guest co-host here, Stetson Kai.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's great to be back on Coffee and Christ with my boy Sean Talent.
That's right, your boy Sean Talent. Well, Stetson, it's good to have you back here on the pod. As you guys can probably guess, Ben wasn't able to make it work this week, so we're going to have him on. And
I'm Ben's new replacement.
yeah, whenever Ben can't make the podcast, we bring Stetson. He does a solid job. So he's no Ben Horton, to be honest with you, but he's pretty good. He's pretty good. But yeah, so today, guys, we're going to talk about head covering. So, actually, me and Ben had recorded an episode for this, but the audio quality sounded like absolute duke. So we scrapped it, and that's why we didn't post this last week. Because I know all our listeners were kind of concerned about it. They emailed us a lot asking about what we were doing, how we were doing, and anyways, yeah. So we had emails flying in. So we appreciate the support, guys, and we just really thank you for the support. So Jason, thank you, Jason Baker, for supporting today's video. He's a downtown realty group. He's your Christian Oklahoma realtor. If you're in the market to buy a house or list a house, and you support a fellow brother in the faith, call him up at 405-313-700. Also, thank you to Sharon Baptist Church for letting us make this makeshift studio. If you ever are in Chickasha or around the Chickasha area and you want a church to visit or to a place to call home, this church is for you. So, also, if you come, you'll get to hear me preach every now and then, and I can give you a little tour of the studio. You may not know what I look like, but just walk around and say, hey, say the intro of this podcast, and then
ask every person on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, welcome to everybody at greeting time. No, you can really, if you wanted to, you can ask anybody in our church, like, who is it that hosts the podcast here? And they would say, oh, it's Sean. So, anyways, that's how you can find me. And I'll show you the studio we're recording in right now. I'll give you a little tour. So, yes, Stetson, normally me and Ben right about now talk about our coffee. So, what kind of drink do you have?
I have a V8 Energy pomegranate blueberry V8 some energy drink. I don't know. It was here for a week probably, just chilling.
That sounds familiar. That was here the last time we recorded.
I tried it and it's absolute duke.
Yeah, it's horrible. As of this podcast, it would be 2 weeks ago. I brought that in there. Brought this drink in here, and whenever Ben brought this drink in here from his truck, and this drink had been sitting in there for an unknown period of time, it could have been months, in the heat, right? Like in this scalding hot car, it just sits there baking, and then I pop it open and I take a sip and I'm like, this is okay. And then it's been sitting in here for as of now about 2 weeks open.
Does it have a expiration date on it?
It's definitely expired at this point. There's probably it's just canceled.
November 20th, 2024. So we're still good.
It's been open though.
It's fine.
I think that ruins it.
Wait, what do you mean by open?
Like the tab has been.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a can, by the way, guys.
Oh, it was already open before earlier?
Open before we came in here.
Oh, okay, guys. Yeah, I didn't understand that, and I just drank this, and we'll probably have a bad time in the restroom later.
Stetson is just going to get cancer.
Our hot dogs while camping.
Dude, yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about our camping trip, because I think the listeners are going to be weird. Let's just tell the story. Let's just tell the story of our camping trip. How about that? All right, so Stetson, you want to tell us about how you got this idea and how it worked out in your brain?
What do you mean?
For the camping trip, how this all came about.
Well, I just wanted to go camping because it's good fellowship. It's good fellowship with the boys, and I was like, where's a new place that we can go camping, right? Because last time we went, we got flooded and it was just awful. So I was like, let me get on Google. I'll look up a couple places, see if I can't find something, and boom, there's Robbers Cave State Park. Well, we decided to go after my graduation. Didn't pull up till about 11 o'clock. and nothing was open at the state park. So nowadays, I guess you have to book online, like a dang hotel or something, just to camp. So, yeah, we drove 40 minutes to McAllister, Oklahoma.
So we drove through McAllister to get to Roberts State Park.
Yes. And mind you, it's like 12:30 at night. And we drive there and we get in a Best Western, sleep, and then go back out for the day. But honestly, the Best Western wasn't that bad.
It's pretty nice.
Yes.
If you're ever in McAllister and you need a place to stay, that Best Western, it's a good price, right?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of money.
104.
Yeah.
Which for the three of us, it was about $30-something a piece. Yeah.
And listen, guys, I'm not 21, and the check-in age is 21. They didn't even check me.
So if you're 11 and you need a place to stay, hit up the Best Western in McAllister.
No, they probably wouldn't let an 11. But I was close enough when I bet, and they were. But yeah. Anyway, so that's just the kind of ratchetness of the trip. We also went fishing on a lake that's kind of by there. We drove my 2-man. Like, we loaded up in the back of Brady's truck. We took my 2-man bass boat, and it rode all the way through on the interstate and everything. On what is it? Is it 40 that goes east? I-40 that goes east and west right here.
I think so.
I think it's 40.
Yeah.
I-40. We rode I-40 on the interstate going 80, 85 sometimes.
And she sat and rode just fine.
She rode just fine. It was kind of ratchet. We got some looks from people. I know that was hilarious. People would like look at us like, "What are you doing?"
Hey, it is what it is.
We got some real looks when we pulled into the parking lot. Stetson graduated from Lloyd Noble. Like, that's where his graduation was at. Was at Lloyd Noble, and but then when we pulled into the parking lot with this boat in the back of our truck, we got some real funky looks. One guy, like, you were there when this guy did it. He like gave us a good thumbs up.
Oh, whenever we were like trying to go to Raising Cane's.
Yeah. So.
But that's just been the stuff that we've been up to here lately.
Well, I want to talk quickly about the cooking lunch.
Oh.
So we bought all this.
We need to take a class.
Yeah, we bought all this. We bought all this food for camping. Like, we brought sandwich stuff. We brought breakfast burrito stuff. And we brought bratwurst, not hot dogs, but bratwurst and hot dog buns. Left it all on a cooler in a ice chest. And we went and we started a fire at the campgrounds, and I had this like copper pan. It's got black stuff on it that just will not wash out.
We needed to buy a new one.
So I put it on the fire and it got heated up. We threw a bunch of bacon on there. We cooked probably, what was it, like 4 pieces of bacon at a time?
Yeah, probably.
And when we would cook them, we'd take the bacon off, put it on the plate, and then throw the fruit into the fire.
Oh, she would roar.
Yeah, it would like shoot up real good. So it's literally starting a grease fire. But and anyway, so we did that, and then we made a bunch of bacon. We made some eggs. So the egg carton it's a cardboard one, and it got all soggy in the ice chest. We were like, this is not gonna ride. So we just like cooked all the eggs on this ratchet, like, it had charcoal or like black stuff all over it from the bacon and from the all the stuff. And so we like what did Brayden call them? Carcinogens?
He said it's you're eating cancer, basically.
Yeah. So we basically for lunch we had cancer. So anyways, guys, that's just kind of an update from us. I thought that was a hilarious story. You guys probably appreciate. Another thing about this is that if this podcast is not as high quality, it's definitely because James Parent is not editing it for us. Shout out to him. He's not even editing this, and we're gonna read ad for him later. But anyways, that's it. I think the listeners, they want to hear about head covering.
Well, let's.
Are head coverings biblical?
I mean, we have some text for that right here, though.
Yeah. So
Dude.
some notable people currently that are for head coverings. Doug Wilson, all those guys, the Apologia guys, right? Um, oh, the G3 guy, all the G3 guys are for head are against head cover. They're for long hair is a woman's head cover. So that's kind of a lot of contemporary people are for head cover or again or I cannot talk. Sorry guys, again we don't have James to edit this all out, so you're stuck with it. A lot of these guys are for a woman's long hair is her covering. Like I've literally heard the G3 guys did a podcast episode where they talked about how a head covering is only for a woman who like tragically gets cancer and like has no more hair. Like okay, then is when you're supposed to wear head covering. When you literally can't have long hair, when your head has to be big. And so that's kind of the contemporary stance. There's a lot of people out there. There's actually I should say there's a lot fewer people out there that say uh, head coverings are something that a woman is morally obligated to wear. But I would be in this camp. Would you say you're in this camp too, where a woman is?
I would say that uh the text definitely backs it up.
Yeah. We'll get to the text in a little bit, but that's gonna take a little backseat for me here, and I'm gonna kind of go over I'm gonna try and succinctly cover this. The history of head covering. Okay, so starting in with the church fathers. So these church fathers, they were pretty much unanimously agreed on head covering. Like every single one of them was pretty much for them. And in their writing stuff, like I read a book on this, and this is where I'm getting my information. Is A Cover for Glory by Dale Partridge, I believe is his name. And so read this book. He covered the church fathers, and I actually did fact check him. Shout out to Dale Partridge if you hear this. Bro, I really appreciated the book. It was really good, really well done. So he covered the church fathers, and I actually double checked him, and I looked over. I like what John Chrysostom and like Augustine say about these topics. I didn't actually get to look at some of the older guys like Polycarp and Ignatius and Athanasius. A lot of them were just like late post-Nicene fathers. But anyway, so that's kind of what the church fathers. Preceding the church fathers is kind of the medieval age, like from 500 to like there's a 1,000 year period there, but from about 500 to 1500, so about the Reformation ish. So in this area, I there's not a whole lot out there, right? So this is like the time of like Thomas Aquinas, and that's about the only guy I know actually is Thomas Aquinas. But anyways, in this time, there's not a whole lot of writings on it because it's so unanimously understood that a woman should wear head. And we can see this from like the art that's done there. So like the paintings and stuff that people have that are of women, like these women, they have coverings on their head, so it was understood um, so commonly that women should wear head coverings that there wasn't much writing over it, right? It would be like if what's something today to compare this to, like if somebody wrote on Calvinism, right? Like if you're smart, this is a shot at Ben, by the way. If you're like pretty intelligent, like you pretty much understand that Calvinism is true, right? There's been a lot of great writings done on that in years past, and so therefore it's kind of pretty much universally understood to be true. Or maybe, well, people still write on the relationship with the Trinity, but I digress. So continuing on, there's not a lot of writings on there. It's pretty well understood that head coverings were biblical. So coming around to the Reformation, um, a lot of like John Calvin, I read it through his commentaries on 1 Corinthians 11, and he agreed. Head coverings are what women should wear in church, and that was what women wore in church. And so these reformers, the fathers of the Reformation, Luther, Calvin, Knox, Zwingli. I think there's another guy I'm forgetting, but anyways, these guys like they were for head coverings because, and there's writings that prove this stuff that they were for head coverings. Because it kind of started to come up as a place of contention in this portion of history. So, well, not really. It was still pretty well understood, but they still had like writings. Anyways, and like commentaries and stuff. So, moving on to modern day era, right? So it kind of continues to be a commonly understood thing, right? And about the 1960s very solid tradition of wearing head coverings in church. So, like before that, even as late as the 1940s, not even 100 years ago, like there were pictures of professional baseball games of pretty much all the women universally were wearing head coverings out in public. Like you're not even required to wear them out in public, as per 1 Corinthians 11. Like you're only required to wear them when you pray or prophesy. So that's just like such a crazy thing to think of the influence that the church had on the world.
I bet like kind of like back then though, like it was almost like kind of shameful if you didn't. Almost was kind of more of the view that it seems like you're talking about right here.
Yes. And you know what happened in the 1960s? Well, the civil rights happened, but that's not what we're talking about. The second wave feminism happened. The first wave was kind of like late 1800s, like early 1900s, where women fought for the right to vote. Right. So women suffered. 1960. Well, I may have got that wrong. Anyways, they fought for rights for women. Right.
Yeah.
And then the 1960s.
I see what you're saying though.
Yes, the 1960s was second wave feminism, which is a lot more degenerate, right? It's a lot worse. Like there were a lot of first wave feminism produced some good fruit, even though the root of it was bad, right? It didn't come from a moral standard of God's law. So you've heard me and Ben say this in the podcast. Feminism is just poison to society, essentially. You know, there's nothing really, especially modern day feminism. There's just nothing good about it.
Oh, modern day feminism, dog trash.
It is, and so this is another reason why, like, it's a good argument for head coverings, is that feminism is what killed the tradition of wearing head coverings. Did you know that, Stetson?
I mean, I could probably infer if you told me that.
So feminism basically has killed like a lot of good things. Like we can do a podcast on this. I'm just gonna mention this briefly. That even like the right to vote, like women, the right to vote, like the reason the women did have a right to have a vote before they were individually given this right to vote, because people back then understood covenant. They understood headship, right? That the man was representing. That was a family vote. That wasn't just a vote for the man. That was a vote for the family.
I feel like a bunch of people get that misunderstood. That I feel like, in my personal opinion, that people don't see submission as like how it truly is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like people see it that the man is just the one that I don't care about my family. This is all about me, but it's not like that. It's him leading through God.
Yes.
Being led by God and trusting in him.
Yes.
And that's kind of how we get like what you're saying about the family vote.
And he's like representing.
Yes. Yeah.
He's the leader. He's the final authority on things, right?
Yeah.
Like this doesn't mean that like he goes and votes without consulting his wife, right? Like it's like think of how a kingdom works. Like if a general is going to, or not a general, if a king is going to make a decision to go to war against this other country, he's not just going to do that off on his own.
Yeah.
What's he going to do first? He's going to consult
all of the like military people, everything like that.
Consult his closest general.
Yeah.
And say, what do you think about this? What advice can you give me? Like,
you're
more knowledgeable at this than me. Help me out.
Yeah.
And so that's the relationship between man and woman. The king still has the final authority, but he has his closest adversary, his closest general, has such a large influence over him that she still is represented.
He's just the one that's saying their decision, and I feel like people get that mixed up.
Yes. So that's just a short little rant. Me and Ben can talk more about this. I think. Anyways, I don't want to get too deep into this. We're talking about head coverings today.
Rabbit trail.
So, anyways, yes, feminism is poison to society in most of its facets, right? It's the whole reason we have an abortion epidemic. So, feminism as a whole is just bad, and then this loss of people wearing head coverings is just a fruit of this feminist movement. So, how it happened? Let's talk about this for a second. So, how it happened was there were these women, these feminists in these churches that would gather together, and what they would do was they would organize before church, because everybody wore head coverings back then. right? And so what they would do is they would organize before church, and then when it was time to take communion, because you couldn't take communion as a woman without having your head covered, like that was in like church bylaws and stuff. I don't know about bylaws, but that was like the tradition was you couldn't take, you couldn't take communion without your head.
Very much expected.
Yes. So what they would do was they would go. All these women would go to the table, the Lord's table, to take communion, and at the same time they would all symbolically take their head coverings off, take the bread, take the wine, and they would take communion. So the fact that this loss of tradition of wearing head coverings came from an act of rebellion. Right. That's the thing that sets off such alarm for me is that how it came about that we lost this tradition. So, anyways, that's just the history. And again, I say this that this is not me covering the history and saying this is not an authoritative argument, but it is something to definitely consider. Right. Wearing a head covering isn't something that you should do that you're obligated to do just because it's old. Right. That's actually considered a fallacy. But what I'm saying is that you should definitely consider the history of like how we lost the tradition of wearing head covering, how it was lost, right? It was lost through an act of rebellion, which is set off red flag. So, Stetson, we're gonna move on to reading the text now. So, the text here, if you want to follow along, you may be driving or whatever, so don't.
Yeah, whip out your Bible right now, and while you're driving.
Please don't try and follow us or follow along with us if you're driving. But if you're at a place where you can use your Bible, we're in 1 Corinthians 11. This is verses 2 to 6. You want to go and read it for us?
Yes, I will. Hold on, I'm gonna get my phone unlocked real quick. I'm using my physical copy of the word, but
okay, what do you?
Oh, I was looking at the notes over here. So I just wanted them out over here though. Well, okay, guys. The halfway done outline.
You're ruining it. We don't have an outline. We never.
Oh, yeah, for sure, guys. Yeah, this is just straight knowledge, boys.
Honestly, Ben, if you listen to this, I hope you hear this right. People probably don't really care that we have this running joke. Like it's literally just for me and Ben to laugh at. But anyway, go ahead and read.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read. Sorry for that little spill. But now I commend you because you remember me in everything and maintain the traditions, even as I delivered them to you. But I want you to understand that the head of every man is Christ, the head of a wife is her husband, and the head of Christ is God. Every man who prays or prophesies with his head covered dishonors his head, but every wife who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head, since it is the same as if her head were shaven. For if a wife will not cover her head, then she should cut her hair short. But since it is disgraceful for a wife to cut off her hair or shave her head, let her cover her head. For a man ought not to cover his head, since he is the image and glory of God, but woman is the glory of man. For man was not made from woman, but woman from man. Neither was man created for woman, but woman were for man. But that is why a wife ought to, hold on, gotta flip, have a symbol of authority on her head because of the angels. Nevertheless, in the Lord, woman is not independent of man, nor man of woman. For as woman was made from man, so man is now born of woman, and all things are from God. Judge for yourselves. Is it proper for a wife to pray to God with her head uncovered? Does not nature itself teach you that if a man wears long hair, it is a disgrace for him? But if a woman has long hair, it is her glory. For her hair is given to her for a covering. If anyone is inclined to be contentious, we have no such practice, nor do the churches of God.
So thanks, Stetson.
Sorry, this mic got in the way while I was reading because of that pause right there.
It's no worry. People, you know how many listeners we have, Ben?
Thousands?
Thousands.
Millions.
Messed up in front of thousands of people. Think about that.
Gosh, dang it.
Anyway, no, we have tens of listeners. Anyways, guys, so, yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit. We're gonna try how the head of every man is Christ, the head of a wife is her husband, and the head of Christ is God, right? So he's working up this chain. So it starts with a woman, head of a woman is man, the head of a man is Christ, the head of Christ is God, which is kind of saying the same thing.
That's kind of what I was saying earlier. Whenever we were talking earlier about like submission and stuff, that's kind of what I was leading up to, is like the chain of like how it's supposed to be.
So this is kind of like almost a direct comparison we can make between the two like submission points, right? So there's the submission point of Christ and God. So that would be Jesus and the Father. That would be the Son and the Father. So the Son is submissive to the Father, right? But the Father and the Son are equal. The Baptist Catechism that we're working through.
Yeah. Yes.
It says in the in I don't remember what question it is, but it says like, what's the relationship of the Trinity? And it's like they're the same. If there's the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, they're the same in essence and equal in power and glory. So they're equal in all aspects. The Father and the Son are equal in all aspects, but the Son is submissive to God. The Father is the head of the Son. The Son is submissive to the Father, even though they're equal in every aspect. They're both equally God. So in that sense, it's the same in the other relationship, the husband and the wife. The husband and the wife are equal, right? They're equal. They have the exact same value. They both bear the image of God, but the wife is willfully submissive to the husband, right?
Yes, because he is being led by the Father.
Yes, because the husband, has been given a special authority by God to lead the wife.
And that's where like a lot of people to me take that more as like, it's not like a dominance thing. Like you're not dominating over your wife. Like you're not like, you see what I'm saying?
She has a say in things. Right?
Yes.
Like you don't just say, "No, honey, I have authority over you."
But the final decision is made by the husband.
He's the final authority.
Yeah.
Right. This is something that kind of plagues our culture in understanding. This is part of why I preached this class about this but last Sunday. Is because our culture really has a problem with understanding what submission looks like, what biblical headship looks like. I said that, like I described what biblical submission. I kind of touched on. I didn't dive into it like I probably should have, but what submission looks like, how it's so powerful. Like First Peter 3, I think First Peter 3, 1 or 2 says that it basically talks about how submission is so powerful. Like Peter says, use this to win your husband to Christ. Use this to preach the gospel to him through being a submissive wife. And that's because there's so much power held in a quiet and submissive wife, right? And that's why these I'm gonna say this again. That's why these blue-haired feminists tell you to be loud, rambunctious, obnoxious, and rebellious. It's because there's no power in that. A Christian woman that is loud and rebellious is not going to be as powerful as a woman that is quiet, meek, and submissive. Because there's no power in that.
Yeah.
There's power in submission, though. Anyways, that was a little rant for me. But so we understand these two comparisons here, right? And that this is part of the reason Paul is setting this up, because part of the reason why a woman is supposed to wear a head covering is because her husband. It's because it's a sign of submission. And he continues on talking about this. How a woman ought not to wear a. Where's this at? It's like a woman ought not to have a symbol of authority on her head. And maybe it's actually later down in the text. After he says that this authority chain, so to say, he dives into a woman who should pray, or a man. I don't know, it's a man who should pray or prophesy with his head uncovered. So when he has his head covered, it dishonors his head. So, Stetson.
So in that sense, are you saying that a man should be bald.
No, but he should have short hair because Paul said in verse 15, 14, does not nature itself teach you that if a man wears long hair, it is a disgrace for him. So men should not have long hair. This just means that they should have short hair. This doesn't mean that all men should be bald.
Yeah. Well, that was just a question for you to think about, but
I
yeah.
want to answer. But then we have Braden Morris. If you listen to this, bro, this is for you. People that say, well, the saints all have long hair. Jesus had long hair. Like, you can't really prove that.
I mean, they really didn't have pictures.
How can you prove that Jesus had long hair? Because of tradition. Well,
I think that's just the most commonly thing that you are presented.
Yes.
Like through images of like, you know what I mean?
It may be tradition that Jesus had long hair.
But do we really know that he had long hair?
Like, I've heard Braden, sorry. I've heard this, we've already name dropped him.
Oh, we're name dropping now on this podcast.
Google his address. I'll drop his address.
I think that might be unsafe.
Well, if this podcast ever blows up, it would be unsafe. Anyway, so Braden, he objected that. Wait, we already covered this. What am I? Sorry, guys.
You're talking about Braden and. So like.
Oh, Nazarite. That's where it was going. That Jesus took a Nazarite vow. That may be true, but that's a special objection. That's a special circumstance where having long hair would be acceptable, right? So, continuing on. Sorry, Stetson, did you have something?
No, I was just trying to remind you,
Okay,
try and get your thought back.
I appreciate it because it helped me. So, the reason a man should have his head uncovered is because of the angel, right? That's what Paul said. No, he does say that, but and then he just refuses to elaborate, which is kind of funny, I think. Anyways, continue on. A woman should have her hair covered because she's the glory of man, right? She was made and taken from man. So we men are the crown that goes on God's head. We're the glory of God. But then the crown that goes upon our head is woman. Woman is our glory.
Yeah, and like, just to read verse 7, it says, "For a man ought not to cover his head, since he is the image and glory of God, but woman is the glory of man."
Yes, so this is the reasoning that Paul's giving. Sorry, I took over. Did you have something to share?
No, I just wanted to share the full verse.
Before we really got into it. So where, Stetson, I want you to try and figure this out for me. Where is your glory held? Where do you hold your glory at? Like, as an image bearer of God, you are glorious. Where do you hold that at?
I'm gonna say two answers.
Okay.
Either I'm gonna go off what we're talking about here and saying your head, or could be body, like a temple, but I'm gonna go with head. Head.
Your head is correct.
Yep.
Ding, ding, ding. You win absolutely nothing. No. So, yes. So I want you to think about this. So, we're the image of God, right? So we bear his image. We bear his likeness. So Moses, we read this morning as Joshua was preaching. Oh, you weren't there.
Yeah.
It's Exodus 33, where Moses is like, "Show me your glory." And God's like, "You can't sit before my face. You will not be able to stand." And so he says, "Moses, I'll hide you in this rock, and I'll let you see my coattails." And this is because you can't see the face of God because God's face is so incredibly glorious that you can't look. You couldn't stand it. And we're the same way in that our glory is held within our head. Like, the majority of our glory is held within our head. Right, so when Moses came down from Mount Sinai, was it Mount Sinai where he received the 10 Commandments?
I think you're right.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
So he came down from Mount Sinai when he received these 10 Commandments. What was glowing?
His head.
His head was glowing.
Yeah.
This is because your glory is held in your head. about even like this is something that kind of like convinced me. It's kind of like in nature. So like think about my duck, your cattle. What do they look like? Where do they look at on you? They look at your eye. They look at your head. They like
eye contact.
they instinctively know like this is where your like person is held is in your head, in your face. Even animals like inherently know this.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting though. Do you have anything to add to that before I move on? Because I think
I mean, like any type of animal, like most of the time, the first thing that you'll do is literally like lock eyes most of the time.
it's crazy, isn't it?
Unless you're out in the pasture looking for show cattle, and then I'm locked on like if their butt's big enough or something like that. Stout.
Stout, girl. You got some good hits. Anyway,
Cash line right there.
shout out Cash. His address is.
Hit him up at Cash Coleman on Insta. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, you can if you want.
Yeah, we may have later on have to edit this out with the podcast. Anyway, so we're talking about. So this is the reason why men shouldn't cover their head because their glory is held within their head, and they are the glory of God, and so their glory should not be held, should not be covered up, right? But women, their glory, their head, their hair is held. It should be covered because they're man's glory. They're not God. Yeah. They're not God's glory necessarily, right? And so that's why when we pray for prophesy, when we come to worship God, women should wear this head. And Paul gives more arguments and stuff, but I don't really. Me and Ben may get into this. We may do a part 2 on this, but I really want to talk about with Stetson the practicality of this. So, how can we implement something like this in our culture today?
Well, to start this off, I'm just gonna go like on my personal view of this. I mean, I think head coverings should be enforced. I think it backs it up in the text. I think it's biblical. But in my personal opinion, I don't see this happening with today's modern feminism is what and the only way I could see this happening is if like how we were talking about earlier, like by law or something like that, or like where a church enforced it. Is more of the only way I see this happening.
So in the book he talks about how we can implement kind of like what's like there's some Q&As in the back and he like says like, well, pastor, like how, or like I'm a pastor of a church and like I'm convinced by this book that women should wear head coverings. Like, what should I do? He's like, well, it starts with you and your wife. Right. Your wife should be wearing a head covering. Like
I think that is a very fair point because out of like any of the women that she's probably going to be the most like example. Exactly. You see what I'm saying? I think most of the women in the church are going to look at her as the pastor's wife and be like an example type thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, totally. So it starts with your wife, right? And then because women, this is also another thing. It's like really hard for women to do things like this because it's not something that's popular.
Yeah.
Right. It's hard for like women. The way their brains work, the way they work, is that they wanna fit in, right? Which this is really anybody.
I think it's getting back on our trip home from camping, our talk about confidence. You see what I'm saying? I feel like confidence in knowing that you're fitting in, even though like you shouldn't have to feel like you need to fit in to wear a head covering. You see what I'm saying? I'm saying this is like all tying back to like feminism.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I'm, I kind of want to recant my statement earlier because like any human being is like that, right?
Yeah.
If everybody else is smoking cigarettes, and it's the cool thing to do is smoke cigarettes. What are you gonna want to do?
Me personally, I don't know if I would smoke a cigarette because they are just nasty.
Stetson's just better than any human being to ever walk this
No.
So you're gonna want to smoke cigarettes, right?
Oh yeah.
That's the popular thing to do.
Oh yeah, marbles.
So in the same way, like it's popular to not wear
that's more of where I was elaborating. Was it isn't
I'm
isn't
trying
it?
to expound upon. I'm trying to extrapolate upon.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the problem we have is that it's not popular to wear head coverings. So what should we do about it? Well, it starts with your wife being the example, and then it flows from there, right? Like people are gonna ask questions like, well, why does your wife wear a head covering every Sunday? Well, let me sit down and talk with you about it. Do you have time? Like, let me take you to lunch this Sunday. We'll talk about First Corinthians 11 and kind of work through this text. And then what? Then that couple, the wife of that marriage, she starts wearing a head covering, and then it just grows and grows and grows until it's weird. If you come to that church, it's gonna be weird if you don't wear a head covering.
Yeah. I kind of, me personally, I see it in a different way though. I see it as in the church, like a pastor enforces it kind of more is
So
how I like no not like it's like a law like you don't like you I see it more as like the pastor almost preaches over it and explains why it is biblical and that like this church is enforcing this. It's more of how that is just my opinion on this and how I would think it would be practical.
I can agree. I can agree with that. And I would say that if you don't agree with head covering, and you're a man, do you take your hat off when you pray? I ask you that. Do you take your hat off when you pray? Oh, well then you're holding consistently to this text in First Corinthians 11. Like, why do you do that? Have you ever thought about why you take your hat off when you pray? Just because your head should be uncovered when you pray.
I
So in the same way, whenever women are not putting something over their head to cover their glory, and you're praying, they're doing the same thing as you if you left your hat on,
I think that is a like actually really good point.
isn't it?
I feel like that kind of you need to ask Braden that.
Yeah, because he's very adamant about taking his hat off.
Well, I mean, he takes his hat off whenever he prays.
So,
So ask him why and then explain and then like it's holding consistent to the text.
yeah, I agree.
For example,
Yeah, there's a lot of things to work through in this text. And I think me and Ben can definitely do a part two, or maybe even me and you could do a part
Yeah.
two on this. Maybe you could study a little bit, and we can. Maybe you'll come to a different conclusion. You'll be like, I know it is, because we didn't even address the objection that the text says that if a woman has long hair, it is her covering. So I can't answer that, and I can raise the objection, but we need to move on to closing because we're getting close to time. So um, before we start closing, do you have any final thoughts on this topic?
I mean, I think I expressed everything. I kind of feel as in if like it's ever going to be practical and my view is it has to be enforced by the church.
Yeah, that's good.
It's where I see it.
Yeah, and for me, like, it's just like, as a man, do you take your hat off when you pray? Well, then your wife should put a hat on, or she should put something to cover her head, her hair, whatever she prays.
I kind of wish we had somebody here like to object.
Yeah, we'll have Ben. He's studying. He's trying to get studied up on this so he can raise objections, and we can maybe have a full. He says his sister is very knowledgeable on this, and so we may have her on at some point. We get this third mic all set up. So, guys, we want to thank James Heron for editing these podcasts. He isn't gonna edit this one just because we just me and Ben are just sucking. We're doing so bad at getting podcasts put out. Um, but if you want to support, he's a quality man with quality photos. So he doesn't just edit audio and stuff, but he also I think he's really good at is taking pictures and photography. And I've seen his work and he's really fantastic at it. So if you need quality man photos from a quality man, call him, text him, reach out to him at 940-999-7190. Again, that's 940-999-7190. Ben has his just typed out. He just reads it, and I just come up with I just memorize mine. So Stetson, do you happen to know the best way that people can support us?
give them a 5-star review.
Give us a 5-star review.
Hit that subscribe button.
Smash that subscribe button. Pound the like button.
And click the post notifications, whatever crap, the bell.
Yeah, bro, we're trying to get to 1,700 subscribers. So we have 2 right.
Please show some love. Sean is actually grinding on this, so.
Please subscribe. Yeah, so guys, we're trying to get quality content out to you guys. So we've been praying that God would bless us, and He has blessed us. I think averaging 10 to 20 listeners per podcast, we're having influence on people, and I praise God for that. But
I
I
mean,
would love to see this podcast continue to grow and to continue to reach more people. So that's the best way to support us and help us to accomplish this mission, this goal of ours, is leaving us a 5-star review. Another thing you can do is send us money, like through Cash App or Venmo, if you feel the desire to. Do not feel like you have to.
and definitely if you have you want to get a sponsor on here, right?
Yeah, if you want to sponsor us, like, bring it on. We would love to take your money. That helps us. Look, none of this money goes to me or Ben. All of this money goes straight to the podcast, to us buying new equipment, to us buying better equipment. We'll be able to get on YouTube with some high quality filming.
And you can finally see what Sean and Ben look like. We should lead it up, like do thousands of videos with just like blurred faces.
Anyways, we'll have we'll be able to actually pay James instead of just reading an ad for him. So, Stetson, before we close out, you have any final thoughts?
No, I do not.
Okay, well,
God is good.
Okay. Well, Ben has been working on an outro, and I don't know it, so I'm just gonna say, guys, until next time, drink good coffee and enjoy Christ.
Bye.